I'm a psychologist, and in this video, I'm going to be exploring the question of which countries is it easiest and which countries is it impossible to start a relationship in and find love, find a boyfriend or a girlfriend. I'll be using personality research for this one, so let's get started. So I'll give you a quick background on personality psychology. So there's 5 key traits in every human, and within these 5 key traits, there's 6 traits for a total of 30, but let's just keep it simple and we'll go with there are 5 key personality traits in people, and you have all 5 and they are here. You just fluctuate on the levels within that. So the first one is agreeableness. So this personality trait indexes how cooperative or competitive you are. So if you are high on agreeableness, you're generally a cooperative person. If you're low on agreeableness, you're generally skeptical or competitive. The next one is neuroticism. This one indexes how much things like anxiety, depression, anger, and stress you feel. So if a person is high on neuroticism, they might be quite emotionally reactive. They might experience a lot of anxiety. If they're low on neuroticism, they generally are calm under pressure. The next one is openness to experience. So this one refers to how frequently you seek out new things or whether you prefer routine. So a person that's high on openness tends to seek out novelty. A person that's low on openness tends to prefer routine and tradition. Conscientiousness is number 4. This one indexes the degree to which a person is organized and reliable. So if you're highly conscientious, you're organized and reliable, and if you're low on conscientiousness, you might be quite spontaneous or perhaps just highly flexible in your scheduling. And the last one, which is probably the most common one that people know, is extroversion. So someone that's highly extroverted is someone that's very social. They're a bit of a socialite. They like to go out and about. And someone that's low on extroversion is, well, they're basically an introvert. They prefer solitude to recharge. So what's interesting is that with all of these 5, agreeableness, neuroticism, and actually openness, but I won't be covering openness in this video, but agreeableness and neuroticism, we can use those 2 personality dimensions to predict whether a person will have a stable, healthy relationship. And then by extension, if I can find which countries have the highest levels of agreeableness, lowest levels of neuroticism, then that by extension should allow me to predict whether that particular country will whether it will be easy to find a relationship in. People probably think I'm making this video to find love, but actually at the time of recording this video, I am actually committed relationship. So yeah, anyway, just thought I'd adjust that bias. So here's what it looks like practically. So if you're a person, so these are examples of like relationship issues and dilemmas and what it would look like if a person has high agreeableness versus low agreeableness and high neuroticism versus low neuroticism, just to really anchor the point home. So let's say after a fight, so a couple has a fight and both of them have high agreeableness. What that would mean is that they would come together and be like, I see your side, let's fix this. Someone might reach out first and initiate the repair process. If 2 people are low on agreeableness, after a fight, someone might be like, I'm not apologizing. They might keep score, they might wait, they might basically not resolve the dilemma. If a person is high on neuroticism, an example here is if their partner is late, a person that's highly neurotic might be like, they don't care about me. They might start spiraling, they might text the person 3 times, where are you? A person that's low on neuroticism and their partner is late, they might assume, yep, traffic, I'll start dinner. They stay calm. So hopefully these examples make sense of what it could look like practically. And then people can pause the slide here and read the other ones. This is the other personality dimensions that I won't really be covering. High versus low openness, high versus low conscientiousness, and high versus low neuroticism. Alrighty, so I think the next slide. So then let's have a look at, I'll be looking at 5 countries, 2 that are showing improvements in agreeableness and neuroticism, 1 that's stable, and 2 that are declining in agreeableness and neuroticism, with explanations for why, and then what we can basically take home. And then I'll have a snapshot of a bunch of other different countries showing whether they're increasing, decreasing, or stabilizing. So if anyone wants to look at if you're from your own country, you can have a look at the data. So we'll start with the Netherlands. So the Netherlands over time seems to be substantially improving their population level neuroticism, and they're improving their population level agreeableness. So what this means is that on average, people are less anxious and more cooperative. And by extension, if you're less anxious and you're more cooperative, you're more stable, and then you can stabilize yourself in a relationship. So there seems to be 4 data points that point to why the Netherlands is displaying this increase or this improvement. So in 1982, there was this thing called the Wassenaar Agreement, which was when unions and employees ended stagflation. There was shorter working, so there were shorter hours, more stable wages, and this thing called the Polder model came about. In 1995, there was expanded mental health coverage. The AWBZ insurance extends therapy access to everybody regardless of income. In 2001, there was the first same-sex marriage. First country in the world reflects and reinforces a culture of social tolerance. And in 2006, universal healthcare, mandatory universal coverage. Every resident gets equal access, but major anxiety source removed. So there's some interesting structural explanations. Next country I'll be covering is Sweden. Once again, Sweden is experiencing a decrease in neuroticism, particularly in women, and an increase in extroversion as well. So people are going out and about more. So why could it be that in Sweden there seems to be a decrease in general levels of anxiety, depression, anger, and stress? Well, in 1974 there was parental leave, gender-neutral parental leave. Fathers encouraged to take time off. Family roles reshaped. In 1979, there was the anti-spanking law, cultural shift towards lower conflict, higher trust child rearing. In 1992, there was a financial crisis, but there was a recovery. There was a banking crisis, but government preserves welfare state safety net holds recovery in 3 years. And in 2002, there was childcare fee cap, so childcare capped at $150 a month. Major stressor removed from parents, especially women. Okay, interesting. So there's some more structural explanations for why this is happening. The next country we'll be covering is Germany, but this is a country that seems to have stability in their things like neuroticism. Well, actually, we'll be covering mainly just neuroticism in this particular context. So there seems to be stability in levels of anxiety and depression at a population level, at least between 1964 and 2015. And the reasons why, let's have a look. So in 1989, the Berlin Wall fell, massive upheaval, economic strain, yet neuroticism stays flat because the institutions within Germany must have absorbed the shock. In 2005, there was the Hartz reform, labour modernisation cuts employment down, so the core safety net preserved. In 2007, parental allowance, 67% of income replacement for new parents, financial stress of parenthood reduced. And in 2015, refugee crisis, 1 million arrivals, political polarization, but Gen Z data personality shows no shift. So even with refugees coming in, there seems to be, at least in 2015, it wasn't really a major issue with that. Alrighty. So let's go on to the countries that seem to be declining in their levels of things like agreeableness and neuroticism. United States seems to be having a massive decrease in trust levels and a massive increase in neuroticism levels. Let's find out why. In 1952, there was obviously post-war, high trust, strong unions, growing wages, neuroticism at its lowest. 1981, the safety net cuts begin, welfare, housing, and mental health funding cut, the structural buffer against anxiety weakens. 1993, seems to be just a general increase. Average 1980s child reports more anxiety than 1950s. In 2008, there was the financial crisis. It basically really tipped the US economy. And then in 2022, there was obviously COVID. Next one, and this is the last of the 5 countries, China also seems to be experiencing a decline or in many ways an increase in general neuroticism and anxiety levels. So let's have a look why. In 2001, there was the WTO ascension, export booms begin, competition for jobs and education intensifies dramatically. In 2003, job assignment abolished, graduates must now compete in an open market, youth employment anxiety spike. 2010, one child generation, the second largest economy, one child generation faces 4-to-1 pressure, which is one child supporting two parents, four grandparents. And in 2016, there was this 996 cultural normalization. So 9 a.m. to 9 p.m., 6 days a week in tech and finance. Gap between growth and well-being widens. So, before I go on to what does this all mean? What are the patterns? What are the trends mean? Here's a quick snapshot of different countries around the world and whether they're increasing, decreasing, or staying the same. So Norway, Democratic Republic of Congo, Ethiopia, Ireland, and Australia all seem to be improving their agreeableness levels and lowering their neuroticism, which is a good thing. And India as well, actually. So this is a good thing. This means that on average, the citizens are feeling less anxious and cooperating more. Romania seems to be basically the same, stabilizing. And then there's a bunch of countries that are actually, in Mexico seems to be stabilizing and remaining roughly about the same as well. But then there seems to be a bunch of countries that are declining quite rapidly, much like the United States, much like China. It seems like in Japan, there's very high neuroticism. People are very anxious. The same with South Korea, very low agreeableness, lots of competition. Hong Kong seems to be the same, high agreeableness, which means that there's a very competitive social system. And in Argentina, there's high neuroticism. So, what does this all mean? You might be asking. What can we take home from all of this? Well, we can take home a few things. One pattern that seems to be present for a lot of these countries is that safety nets lower neuroticism. So healthcare, education, housing. When survival isn't a daily worry, people stay calmer. Social trust protects agreeableness. When people trust their institutions and neighbours, cooperation holds. And lastly, low inequality prevents the spiral. So when there's constant comparison fuels anxiety and competition. High inequality makes both worse. So what does this all really mean? Change the environment, the personality shifts with it. So basically, the population's anxiety and competition is almost in part related to the government, I suppose you could say, or at least political or socio-economic events within the country at the time. So the more that there's competition fed into the country through jobs or money, the more that citizens feel anxious and competitive and less likely to engage in, relationship-seeking behaviors, and more likely to engage in their safety-seeking behaviors, like accruing wealth so they have resources that they can finance themselves. It's really interesting, isn't it, if you actually think about it from this higher level perspective? Of course, it makes sense. If everyone's fending for themselves, no one's cooperating. The last slide, the takeaway is that it's not really about the individual, but it's about the environment around them. So you can build your own Norway in a way, because Norway is a country that has high agreeableness, so everyone's kind of getting along, and low anxiety and depression, everyone's kind of feeling good. And the takeaways that you can say to build your Norway is that the conditions change, not the people. You can change your conditions too. So you can decrease your neuroticism by reducing your threat load. Less financial stress where possible, doom scrolling less where possible, stay away from toxic work environments. Build a trusted network, your personal safety net. Security breeds warmth. Make some good friends where possible. And pick your better environments. Choose a cooperative environment, such as the Scandinavian edge is structure, not magic. Not to where you move, not where to move, what to build around yourself. Hopefully that makes sense. So I guess the answer to the question is, where do you find a relationship? You find a relationship in the countries I've listed that seem to be showing improvements in their agreeableness levels, but you just build a better environment around you where possible. Hopefully this was interesting for people to watch, and hopefully it makes sense. That's the end of this video. Thanks for watching. Subscribe for more.